Good evening, everyone. Happy Thursday. Just gonna wait a few moments to allow people to check in. Hope you all have an amazing day. Hey, Miss Jacinta. So, favorite day of the week, testimony time with Devan. I am excited as this is the first official live of 2025 with an actual guest. And so I wanted to show y'all something. I got this cup, Miss Jacinta. You got one coming to you the next time I see you. I wanted it to be a surprise. And so I was on Amazon and I had seen, I met someone at one of the Coffee with the Girls with Pastor Melody about a month or so ago. And she was like, when you go live, what do you talk about? So I was telling her that I allow this platform for those who want to share their testimony. And I said, I'm usually drinking like tea or water. She was like, you like tea? I said, yeah. She goes, you should have a coffee cup. And I was like, why am I going to do that? So I don't know, like 2 weeks ago, that same conversation came up in my mind and I said, how am I going to do this? So I went on Amazon and green is my favorite color. So I said, let me go ahead and see if I can get a cup made. And so I couldn't find anyone locally, but they have this company that I found out of California actually sells the cups just blank without it being customized. And so they had like the green, the pink, the red, the blue, and I was like, well, green's my favorite color, and this shade of green is actually one of my top 3 shades. And so I was like, I'm gonna go ahead and get this cup. And so I was like, I wonder if I can customize it. They had a whole option for like an extra $5 to have the cup customized, and then you had to pay for shipping because it is coming from California. But I said, okay. So I went ahead and I got that. So Miss Jacinta, you have a customized cup coming to you when I see you. Prayerfully, we have church on Saturday. Just as a thank you for all that you've done in this space with me, trying to help me with social media, trying to get me to learn different things with my platform. So that's just my thank you to you. If it wasn't for you, like I wouldn't have even known where to get started. So I have that for you. I got one for Pastor Joe, so she got hers the other day. And I have 2 other people that I'm going to give the cup to. So I'm excited. Can you hear me? Miss Jacinta, like is the connection going in and out, or are we good? Okay, good. So I'm just waiting for Ashley to come on. I'm actually going to invite her in because, and invite Miss Ashley on, see if she's available so that she can share her testimony tonight. And so I do want to give a public service announcement that this is Instagram. So if for any reason we have to do a part 2, I'm just asking everyone, once I give the direction of, we have to come off and come back on, that everyone will come back on because we only have 1 hour. I'm trying to, me and Ms. Jacinta are trying to figure Facebook out. But guess what? Hurdles will come, some of the blocks will come, and we will see what the Lord is going to do. But I'm not going to faint in this process. I'm going to keep pressing. I'm going to keep going because I know what he explained to me more than now 6 months ago. So that's about it on that. But let me go ahead and see if I can recall Miss Ashley. 1 second. So she's probably going to have to do it on her end. And so I did do the idea, Miss Jacinta, of moving to a different room to kind of see. Hey, Ashley.
Hi.
How are you? I was like, maybe I did something wrong, so I canceled it and resent it to see if you were going to come
Yeah, I
on.
didn't know how it worked, so I seen that it requested me.
Okay. See, we're already off to a good start. I was just explaining that I have Miss Jacinta. She is our media director at our church, and she's been helping me from the beginning with social media. And when I went live last Thursday on Facebook, I couldn't see nobody. I couldn't add anybody on. I couldn't see comments. So I'm like, am I just sitting here talking to myself? But then afterwards, people were like, yeah, we seen you. We were listening. But and it's still like we've been trying on and off for the last couple of days to figure it out. And I don't know if it's because it's a professional page and not my main page. But listen, if I have to go to my main page to do what I got to do, I'm gonna have
Yeah,
to. But
to make it
we're
work.
gonna to make it work. We're still gonna do it.
Definitely.
So I have the honor and pleasure, everyone, of having Ashley Boyer. She is a grown woman, but I met her as a little girl. I
Well,
thought about that today when
I
I came
know.
home. I was like, oh my God. I was like, I met you in 90.
I think I was like 12,
Well,
11,
yep. Mm-hmm.
because I was
With this long,
babysitting.
beautiful hair and this beautiful smile. And I remember I was in the kitchen early when I came from work, and I was like, dang, I've known y'all for a long time. I met
Yeah.
LaQuay in 19. Okay. Okay. I met LaQuay in 1994.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, because
wow.
Janae was a baby.
Janae was a baby and she's 27.
I know. I'm like, I'm
So
an
this
old lady.
nope, not at all. Not at all. And so I'm excited. I know me, you have talked over the years about different things that was going on with you. And that's why when I asked you last month about sharing your testimony, I asked the Lord to place those on my heart that to invite to come on, and you were one of the people. And I was like, I've watched different engagements you have done sharing your story, and I said, yeah, this is the platform for her to show and to be able to explain your situation and your relationship and your journey with the Lord. And so, a little further backstory: Ashley's grandmother, Miss Sweetie, God rest her soul, was my daughter's godmother. Like, me and her cousin LaQuay became so close that his grandmother was her godmother. And she in itself like was a medical miracle too, am I correct? Because Miss Sweetie was born with sickle
Yes.
cell and lived to be almost 80.
67, around
67.
67. But she wasn't supposed to live past, I believe, 20. But don't quote me. But yeah, she
Right.
wasn't.
I remember her telling me that they told her that she wasn't going to be able to live through her adulthood.
Yeah.
So for her to make it to her late 60s is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Yep.
It was a blessing to
So,
have her.
oh,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes.
So
So
I'm
she's
going to give
well.
you the floor, but before you start sharing, I just want to say a prayer.
Yeah.
I always want to invite the Lord in this space. So Father, thank you in the name of Jesus for this fellowship, this time being spent with each other, Father. I thank you as Ashley is going to come before the world to give her testimony of all that she has gone through and how you played your major role, had your hand on her in her journey, Lord. I thank you for those who are watching, Lord, that they will grasp something from her testimony. And if it's not for them, Lord, let it be for someone who's connected to them. Holy Spirit, you are always welcome here. We thank you and we love you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Um,
So it's on you.
Okay, so well, as you know, I was raised in the church. I was raised private schools. I had a good family. Very sheltered though, as you could remember. So I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't
Oh
really
yeah.
allowed to go out and explore and make mistakes and things like that. And I think as I got older and I was able to have that little bit of time to like go out, I started to explore things that, other people were doing, but growing up, I was bullied. So it was kind of like I didn't really have the same experiences because it was kind of like my hair was long or, the girls didn't like me. So I didn't have a lot of friends that were girls. A lot of the boys liked me, but the girls didn't. So that
Mm-hmm.
was a lot to like kind of deal with. And I feel like growing up, no one actually knew how to teach me how to navigate that. And I just was always in the church. So I feel like once I got that little inkling of freedom, I just did not know what to do. And I
Right.
feel like I rebelled like a lot. So it's like if you told me no, I was going to do the total opposite. And so in return, like I just started hanging out with boys and my uncle, he was a pastor and he had a church and me and my his wife's sister, we had like the house and we were going to hang out. My mom was supposed to babysit or whatever, and I decided to throw a party. And I think I was about 13 then, and I threw a party. The party didn't really go the way it was supposed to go. I got drunk for the first time. The guys at the party left, but my little cousin, she had called for one of the guys that I knew for help, but they didn't come. Their family members came and
Mm-hmm.
they raped me really bad and stole some things from my uncle's house, and I feel like that tore my family apart a little bit, and that was like a downward spiral kind of for my life where it was like I was judged from my family, like, oh, she's just a hoe, or she's just this, she's already promiscuous, like she's doing this. So it was just kind of like, and I felt like my mom, like she wasn't there, like how I wanted her to be there in certain ways. I didn't know what I needed. I feel like at 12 and 13, you're going through such a transition that your hormones are all over the place. You're searching for things. There's so many other influences. So I felt like I was searching for love. I was searching for somebody to, I don't know, accept me, I guess. So I geared
Mm-hmm.
more towards the guys and boys, things like that. So after that happened, I didn't get the professional help that I needed. I did get like a rape kit and things like that. So it was proven that that did happen and I didn't lie about it. But my life kind of, my personal life, I just kept going, messing. I went to older guys after that. And so, I feel like I met this guy and we finally left out of where we lived in, my small town. We moved to a different town over and I was around different cultures, so it was a different atmosphere than
Right.
the smaller town. So I met this guy, and he had a car, and he started picking me up, and I would like, tell my mom that I would spend the night over someone's house, and I would like really be hanging out with him, not knowing like the whole time he was kind of like grooming me a little bit. And after a while, I was realizing that, like, I would hang out with him and I would wake up the next day and not feel like myself. I would black out, not knowing what's going on, but I knew we were drinking. And then one day, my mom's boyfriend said that he saw a tape of me being sold in Atlantic City or whatever. And come to find out that the guy, was drugging me or whatever and, made a tape of me and it was going around. So my life continued to go down. But then I try to change it into football, getting more into church, after that happened because it kind of like it was very embarrassing and I don't think anyone really understands like what that feels like because I didn't know that happened, you know what I mean? So
Right.
and it's like you kind of have to hide it because I feel like that was back in the day. So things like that weren't allowed to like really be talked about like how it's talked about now. That things like
Mm-hmm.
that happened. So it was kind of like you have to go to church every single day. You got to do the communion. Like that's kind of like how everything was handled back then. So I ended up going to a charter school for high school and wanting to be a singer, wanting to be a model. And one day I was still kind of like seeing this guy. I don't know. I don't know why, but he kind of manipulated me to think that everything was okay and he wasn't going to do that anymore, stuff like that. And so I called a cab one day because he didn't pick me up from school. And I met this cab driver. And the cab driver was like very interested in the school I was going to, told me he knew like a record label, things like that. And I linked them up. I ended up being so excited, told my mom, told my uncle's wife, everything like that. We ended up setting a meeting with these people. They said that they were going to do like a demo for me. And so I did, like, I was allowed to go to the studio and I did some music and things like that. And then I had a boyfriend. I felt like I changed. I was in high school. I was enjoying life. I was doing good.
Mhm.
And so the cab driver, he was just a driver, but he hung out with the people at the studio. So he called me one day and he's like, "Hey, you have studio time. Like, do you want to come?" And I'm just like, "Oh, let me ask." And my mom's like, "It's okay. Just be home by curfew." And you got to think I'm like 16 and a half, 17, like, so it's a little bit more leeway, like with the curfew. My curfew was like 11:30, 12.
Right.
So he picked me up, and when he picked me up, he just said he had to make a stop. And he made a stop, and it was at a hotel room, and there were some girls there, or whatever. They looked really sick. They were like white girls. I didn't know what was going on. I'm from a small town, so I'm not really
Right.
equipped for
Yep.
for a lot of stuff. So I'm just church girl. So he was like, "I'll be right back." And I was like, okay. So he left me in the room with these girls and he walked out the room. And the girls were like, "Oh, you must be the new girl or whatever. Welcome. Like, just don't get smart with him because he beats girls." And I'm like, "I'm just going to the studio. I don't know what you're talking about." And then he comes into the room and he basically is like, "Listen, like, you work for me now. You're not going home. Like, this is what it is. Like, I know where your mom works. I know where your mom's boyfriend works. I know everything about you. um you're done. Like, this is it, basically." And so from there we took the girls to Atlantic City so they can go work. I was just kind of stuck because I'm like, "What do you mean?" Like, so I'm asking a lot of questions, trying to figure out, like, can I go home? Like, all these things. And he's just like, "You work for me. I'm daddy. Like, this is what it is. Like, I'm gonna show you the ropes. We're gonna get this money. You're already out here sleeping with these people. Like, I seen the tape. Like, you're already doing it for free. So you might as well get money for it." So in my mind, like, at that moment, I felt like I was just being punished for just doing like a lot of dumb stuff. Like, you know what I mean? And it was catching up to me. I didn't really. So he took my phone. We went to the room. Things happened that shouldn't happen, of course. And then from there, he ended up putting me in the AC Weekly newspaper. That's what they had back in the day, like
Mhm.
the newspaper ads. And I had my first client. He told me, "Just go in the room, get the money, do what he asks you to do, don't ask any questions, and then when you're done, just come out and bring the money. I'll be right outside." So I went into the room. It was just the older white guy, and I did whatever he asked me to do. And then I was like, "Can I use your phone? I don't have a phone. Like, I'm only 16." And he's just like, "Oh, here's an extra 100. No." Like, so it was just kind of like, okay. And then when I came out and I gave him the money, he let me know, like, "You're not allowed to say things like that." So it was kind of like the guy already communicated or whatever, that I tried to, like, use the phone,
If
things
you
like
try to
that.
use the phone, right.
Yeah, so in my mind, I'm like, okay, so this is serious. This is real. Like, this is my life right now. So I was still trying to think of like what I could do because I knew deep down, like, my mom was worried about me, like, people were worried about me. But I feel like because I was so rebellious, they probably thought that maybe I would have ran away or something like that because I was
Mhm.
so mad about the curfew and getting older. So it was just so many things going. And to me, he wasn't even like attractive. He was just this big, like, to me, I'm a young girl, so he was just like a monster to me. That's how I looked at him. And I just wanted to be away from him. He ended up having me work a couple, like, more times. He ended up putting an ad for a girl. He thought that if he brought another girl in, that I would be okay with that. And from there, he brought another younger girl that was around my age, and her mom actually sold her to him. So she needed money for her bills or whatever the case may be. He promised her that, they would make money together. She was just going to be like taking pictures and things like that. And like, hearing the conversation, and it's like, ooh, like, what do you mean? So she had an attitude because she thought that she was just going to be modeling. She didn't know that she was going to be escorting. And we're the same age.
Wow.
So that was a lot to deal with. Being stuck in a room with a girl that has, like, for one, she was from the city, and so she was just a little bit more aggressive than I was. And me, I'm just praying, like, whatever's meant to be is gonna be in this situation. I don't want to get beat up, so I'm gonna just do what I'm supposed to do.
Okay. Right.
And so we went to Atlantic City. We got down like on Pacific, and some like the other pimps and stuff like that saw us. And basically, like, I guess the next day they like told him like he wasn't allowed to have us out there. Like, it was a big meeting. They like told him he wasn't allowed. Like, I tried to hear it, but there's this girl that was there. Um from there, I got linked up with this guy, this other guy. I was given to this other guy, and he was this short, like pimp that you would see on TV with the long curly hair and the long
Mm-hmm.
leather coat. He was just really short. And from there, he took me to Detroit. And I worked in Detroit in the snow, naked on the streets. And I had to learn how to work on the streets, truck stops, everything. I turned, you know, um, I don't know if I turned 17 with them, but I know that I still wasn't 18 yet. And in Detroit, I ended up getting in a car with someone, and they took me on the wrong turn, and we ended up fighting. Like, he was punching me, and I was trying to get out the car, and the police actually pulled us over. And from there, I thought, like, oh, I'm saved,
You're
like,
saying, yeah.
but you're kind of like told, like, don't talk to them, don't whatever, like, like, there's certain rules and regulations. And the guy that I was with, he was very aggressive. So his rules and regulations were beat into you. They weren't like just talk to you. So if you did something wrong, he's slapping you. That's how you would learn. So I knew I was going to be in trouble for this car going on the wrong way, because he was babysitting me. Basically, wherever I was going, he was right there. So I knew he knew that the cops had me. But the cops were different then too. They put me in the back of a paddy wagon with a bunch of girls. They took us to some neighborhood, took our names and our birth dates. And I'm like praying that they look at my birth date. They gave us all
Right.
citations and let us go. And so I was like,
Right.
ooh, like, I didn't even go to a station, didn't go anywhere. It was just a roundup of girls, gave us citations and let us go. And so from there, that was like a big deal. That was like a problem, because it was like, why did they let you go? It was just a whole bunch of unnecessary. So then we went to Ohio. We worked in Ohio in the casinos. He trained, not the casinos, the hotels, because he was training me to go to Vegas. Like around, I would say it was like around Christmas, or yes, because I just turned, I think, 17 or 18 around that time, because I was with him for a while. My timeline of age is a little off, but I know around
It's okay.
18 I made it to
Mhm.
Vegas. And when I made it to Vegas, it was just a whole different lifestyle, way different than Atlantic City. It Pimping and hoeing, that's what it was called then versus what it's called now. And it was very, very serious out there in the West Coast. You couldn't look at a black eye, you couldn't talk to a black eye. You had to make sure that you did things the way that you were supposed to do it. You had to make sure you screened guys to make sure that they weren't the police. You had to try to stay safe at all times, because you can get killed. Anything could really happen to you when you're working. So by the time I made it to Vegas, I feel like I just kind of accepted that this was my life at this
Right.
point. Like,
Mhm.
there's no going back. They basically let you know that once you leave one, another one's supposed to snatch you up. There is no going home. So,
Mm.
it's felt like it's kind of like this is who you are now. You change your name, you change your identity. I didn't even know who Ashley was anymore because I'm so young and I'm changing who like now I'm from the West Coast. Like and so it was the guy that I was with, he had about five girls and I was the baby out of them, so most of the girls didn't like me at all. So one night I ran into one of the girls that I worked with, and she basically like started talking to another pimp, even though she wasn't supposed to. And
Mhm.
that ignited. So I ran, I went away, but he decided to chase me. And he chased me through like four or five casinos to the point where I couldn't run anymore. And then he snatched me up and took me away from the other guy. But he ended up being a really, really nice guy. And I was with him for about a year and a half. It was just really bad situation because I got pregnant for the first time, couldn't have the baby, like those are really traumatic experiences. I went to jail for
Mm.
the first time at 18, and I felt
Wow.
like because I went to jail and I was 18 and I was in a casino that's supposed to be 21 and up, somebody would say something, but you're so scared of snitching because the
It's what's
repercussions of
embedded in
doing
your
that,
head. Hmm.
mm,
For the
you
things that
rather
are
be.
embedded in you. Hmm.
Yeah, so it's like, I don't know. So I got accustomed to that lifestyle. I became the best to do it, and I lived in Vegas, and then he was a rapper, and so we lived all over. He was from the Bay, so we worked in the Bay, we worked in LA. I worked all the tracks, I worked on the streets, I worked in the casinos, everywhere, wherever they put me. And then one day I don't know, he did something and I think I was like in love and I didn't know what love was, but I just felt
Right.
jealous when he decided to get another girl and I just went through not being able to keep a baby and it was just so much going on that I left him. I just left. And so when I left him, I was on my own for just a little bit and then I ended up choosing up because I didn't know what to do on my own. And when I called home, it didn't seem like there was anything worth coming home to. Like it just seemed like a lot
Uh,
of chaos. A lot of things that just didn't sound pleasant that I was like, what's better? What are the odds, like of me coming home and being like something to look forward to. Like I dropped out of high school. I have warrants now. Like it was just this is my life. So I decided to stay. I ended up choosing another pimp. He was a horrible person. And after I left him, I stayed on my own for a while. And then there was this famous pimp, and everybody wanted to be with him. And he only liked white girls, and for some reason, he chose me. And so I went with him. And he worked me to the bone, and I felt like I was gonna die. And I kept going to jail because I had so many warrants. And he was teaching me a lot, but it just wasn't. My soul was getting tired.
mhm.
And I felt myself changing my prayers. I used to just pray to make it through the next day. Now it was like,
Mm.
God, if you could show me how to like get away from this, like if you could show me something else, like I know that I'm destined to do something else because in the midst of being out here, most of the guys that I was seeing, I wasn't doing what other girls were doing. I felt like I was a therapist. Like a lot of the guys were having issues with their wives. So it was like they would spend the time to pay me to talk about their issues with their wives and what their wives wouldn't do. And just knowing the how people's minds work and being articulate enough and being smart enough to know how to hold a conversation, I guess you would say, was one of my greatest gifts and running into other young girls out there and knowing how I made myself so high up as far as making money that if I ran into a girl and I felt like she didn't need to be out there, it's nothing to pass her a couple dollars and make it back or stay down a little bit longer so she can catch that bus ride home. So it was like I never lost my soul. I didn't like get addicted to drugs. Once I learned that like you don't have to just necessarily sell your body, you could sell conversation, I kind of learned how to change how I perceived being a prostitute. I didn't feel like I needed to just be doing what all the other girls did. I felt like if you pay me extra, we can go to this hotel room, and versus me being in this car, anything to make me like feel safe or feel
Mhm.
warm, or maybe get a meal if I wasn't allowed to eat this week or something like that, to where if I'm nice to this guy that's picking me up, he might feed me, he might get me a hotel room, he might let me keep it. And then, I end up being a really nice girl, and now he wants to see me once a week. And now once a week I've secured, some type of safety net for myself. So you learn those survival things. And I feel like that's, now that been out of it for so long, I realize those little things were God. That was God making sure that I had the tools and the necessarily things to be in what someone told me was the wilderness. But at the time, I feel like I got tired and I couldn't do it anymore.
Right.
And I feel like
Mhm.
everyone hits like that breaking point. So I was going to jail all the time. So he ended up sending me and a couple girls to Hawaii. And I did not like my working experience in Hawaii. It was very bad. And so I was like, this is it. Like, this is it, God. Like, if I don't make it out of Hawaii and make it to Jersey, I don't know what else is left for my life. I've already threatened him that if he sends me back to California, he'll never see me again. Like, it was either like, I don't know. I don't know what my options were, but I knew that it was a lot on the table for me. It was either I was going to end it myself or I was going to just let life do what it's supposed to do. But I just was tired. So I saw an opening and I ran to our hotel room. He left Hawaii and left me and the girls there, and I was in charge of the girls. So I felt like I built enough trust, and I built myself up with him that he feels like he can trust us. So I called my mom. I called my mom and I'm like, hey, now I've talked to my mom throughout my experience. She thought I was modeling. She thought I was whatever. I was always on time calls with her. So I'm like, listen, I don't have much time. I'm like, and I don't know how much money you have, but I need a plane ticket and I'm in Hawaii and I would like to come home. But I don't know how we're going to do this and I don't know how it's going to work. And so there's a chance you might lose your money. And if you lose your money, I'm very, very sorry. And I'm going to keep trying, but I could pay you back. And so she's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I'm just going to keep it real with you. I'm a hoe and I got a pimp and I'm tired. Like, I'm hungry. My feet hurt. I don't think I can make it into the next year. Like, this isn't, it's not working out. And so she's like, call me back in an hour. And I'm like, I'll call you back when I can. And she's like, when can I
Wait,
get the ticket? And I'm just like, just get the ticket, tell me when it is, and I'll leave the rest up to me. So I went back out to work, whatever, whatever. I was trying to make as much money as possible to
right,
have, but the girl that I was with didn't listen, and she never listened. So out in Hawaii, when you service the undercover, you get arrested right then and there.
right,
And it's a little bit different. You could either come up with your bail money or you have to serve a minimum of 30 to 60 days. So right then and there. So it's not like how it is here where, you have that option to see the judge, anything. No, they want their money like
right,
right there.
right,
So
girl.
I ended up having to give her the money because she didn't have it. So she took from me something that I knew I was gonna have to like hurry up and make back because I didn't want to come home empty handed. I guess my mind was in the wrong thought process. So it
Mhm.
was like I felt like it was like a mission of like work, 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 work. So I ended up working a whole 2 days straight, no sleep, nothing, and just to try to make as much as I could. And I called my mom and she's like, I got a plane ticket. It was for the end of the week. I knew we were due to leave that same day to meet
Wow.
him in California. And so I was like, how can I do this? Because I'm supposed to be traveling with the girls to the airport and we're supposed to be going to California. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna pack all like have all our stuff packed. They wanted to go and grab lunch or breakfast or whatever. I'm gonna tell them that I'm gonna have the stuff down at the bell desk. And so they can do that and whatever. So in my mind, I'm like, I'm gonna take the stuff down at the bell desk. I'm gonna leave their stuff with the bell desk so it's safe and secure and they know. And then I'm gonna take my stuff, jump in a cab, get to the airport. Where they're going is different from where I have to go. And that's what I did. And I got to the airport and he started calling and like turned my phone off. I got on the plane. I didn't know if I was making the right decision, but and listen, I was 110 pounds. I had platinum
Wow.
blonde hair. Platinum blonde hair. I never owned a pair of sneakers. So I had all high heels, fur coats. I came with exactly what I had. That's it. So when my mom came to pick me up, they drove past me like three, four times because they didn't even know who I was. I had to jump out in front of them.
Wow.
And so yeah, it was cool. I came home. It was different for them because I was a different person. Everything looked the same here, but I was different. So it was a transition. They were like, you gotta get fat. You gotta eat,
Right, you
like,
gotta eat. Right.
you gotta eat, you gotta eat. So I did, but then I was here for about a month and then I was getting lonely. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't, everybody was going to work. I didn't have a desire to go do any of that stuff. The strip clubs were like not my thing out here. Like, so I didn't know what to do. So
Mm-hmm.
I ended up getting a call. I think this is when like MySpace was a thing. So I ended up getting
Mm-hmm.
hit on MySpace and it was the pimp that got me in Vegas, the rapper.
Mm-hmm.
So he was doing his rapping thing and he's doing really, really good. And he was in New York. So I ended up traveling to New York, going to see him. It wasn't really like a pimp and hoe situation, but he did put me in position to make money. He was trying to take off with his career, so he wasn't really in that lane anymore. Like he was elevating, so it was kind of like we were just good friends. So um I don't know, I guess from there I just accepted still that that was my life and I still worked, and I ended up coming back, just traveling back and forth, working for agencies, things like that. I ended up working for an agency in North Jersey and was roommates with one of the girls that got murdered by the Long Island serial killer.
Oh
That
yeah.
happened. She was the first body that got found.
Oh, wow.
Me and her worked at so it's like a lot of girls that people don't realize, like a lot of girls get killed and they don't get heard from. And I'll sum it down. So basically, I was working on Backpage in Atlantic City and I was getting called to all these bogus places, but I had a driver.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day I get a call from a young girl and she's like, "Hey, like, you're in danger. Like my stepdad, he's trying to kidnap you." And I'm just like, "What?" And then she explained who he was, and it was basically the person that kidnapped me when I was younger. He was trying to re-kidnap me, and he was basically molesting his stepdaughter from 8 to 12 and was using her to recruit like girls at the EHT school. So
Mm-hmm.
from there I like was just trying to like help, I guess, in some ways. Like it seemed like a I don't know. So from there, I asked my mom to help me out. She knew some people. We got connected with the FBI. The anonymous tip was put out, but from there, I got connected with the FBI. They basically showed up at the hotel room like, "We need to come with me." And they verified all the stuff that I told them and told me that I was actually a victim of human trafficking, which I didn't know anything about. I just, I
Human
thought it was
trafficking,
pimping and
right.
pan. I just thought it
Mm-hmm.
was pimping and pandering, but because I was so old, I couldn't really help that case. But I was able to be a part of it, and from there, he linked me up with different human trafficking organizations. Just learning that I was a victim because I just thought that you know things like that happen. Like sometimes you get caught dead bad cards. I felt like I asked for it, I was being punished, you know what I mean? But then to find out that I wasn't being punished, it took a while for me to go from victim to survivor.
Come
And I
on.
think talking about it helped me become a survivor. Starting to give the speeches, having mothers and people come up to me and tell me like how they're experiencing it, being able to help other people going into rehabs and being able to talk to victims, and um, being able to show people that you can go through that and still be a normal person as as you would say. I still struggle. I feel
Mhm.
like it's like a drug addiction in some ways because it was a part of my life. So you always think of that part of your life constantly. And I feel like me going through that, it was supposed to be a testimony. God wouldn't take you through
Right.
that just for nothing.
Mhm.
God wouldn't save your soul and make you still pure at heart, still humble. I'm not an evil, malicious person. I never like I never stole. I never like, you know what I mean? I always
Mhm.
try to just be good. And so I feel like that was just God. And so I always felt like my grandmom had these spiritual gifts and she gave me these spiritual gifts and the ancestors and all that good stuff. And so, I grew up seeing spirits and I grew up being able to connect with the other part of life and things like that. So I feel like that's always what made me so different and so honed in to where I feel like I've always had like a different connection with God in some way. And as time has been going on, more has been being revealed to me as far as the service of what I can offer. Every time I go to give a speech, I'm like, oh, but now it's like I keep changing how I want to be a voice for human trafficking, but I realize that I'm kind of in a position to step back from human trafficking now because I've survived and I've become professional and I've shown that you can, make a life. I had 20 warrants against me and still ended up getting my massage license and my SD license
Come
and
on.
going to college, and I fought like hard and I didn't let them break me down. I still went back to where I was trafficked to resolve. All my cases got dropped because I had proof that I was a trafficking victim.
Mm.
Um, but in return, I see that there's a need and the need isn't being met. So when I'm working with these organizations, they're trying to pass legislations to hold the buyers accountable. But the
Accountable, right?
legislation isn't really going to get passed because you got to think of who the legislators are. You have to think of who the people are. And no one really talks about the trafficker. The buyers are pretty much worse than the traffickers. The
Mm.
traffickers, I feel like, are victims as well. Um,
Mhm.
even we are victims, prostitutes, but I think that now that I sit back and look at it and I think of the pimps that I've had, they've all had mommy issues. Moms were on drugs, moms were hoes as well. They grew up in those environments, so it was only second nature. And the last speech I gave was pretty much at a school with, I think that's the one you saw. And
Yeah, I did.
it really opened my eyes because this mom, she was black, she looked at me and she's like, well, how am I supposed to teach them self-love if I don't know it? And
Mm.
I I sat and I was just like, I have a child with mental health issues, severe mental health issues. He has autism and schizoaffective bipolar. And I realized that, like, a lot of parents aren't equipped with the things that they need to be equipped with. A lot of
Right.
teachers aren't equipped with, a lot of people that are in charge of kids aren't equipped with the tools that they need to provide that safety for the vulnerability that would allow a buyer to be there. And even buyers, like being around the buyers and them having, like, I feel like if they had an IEP growing up, they probably needed to have some counseling growing up as well.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like
Mm-hmm.
parenting, advocating where somebody can help a parent um, is needed. I feel like that's where a lot of things are falling between the cracks because it's like if a child is uncontrollable, you don't know what to do. You're stressed out. You might have two, three jobs, do whatever you need to do, play the game. And that's when the vulnerability hits. And then you have these men, and it's like, well, my wife isn't doing this for me, and this person isn't doing this for me. All she does is nag, but I can get this little girl who's not going to question me. All I have to do is buy her a nice purse.
Right.
So it's kind of like, there's so many needs that need to be met And there's so many missions that we can be on. It's choosing the right mission. So I feel like the first half of this for me was human trafficking. And now I'm like, oh my God, no, it's inside the homes. Because now inside the homes, DIFUS is coming and then they're kidnapping our kids and they're trafficking our kids because it's all a money game. Everything's about money. So it's like if we can equip people with learning to love, and a lot of people, I've had a lot of people ask me lately, I've been talking about God, 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 and they're like, are you like back to, and it's like, I feel like because of what I went through, I am non-denominational. You know, I was growing up in the AME church. I was
Mhm.
raised Christian, but after what I've been through, I can't resonate with Christianity just because I can't I believe that I'm the church. Me and God are the church.
Come
Because
on.
I was judged more in the church than I'm judged anywhere else. I feel like there's some people I resonate in the Bible that were just like me. And
Right.
so how can someone tell me that I can't wear this, or I can't, or I used to be this or something like that? How can you judge me when there's only supposed to be one person judging me? So I feel like God is everything. God is
Mhm.
within me. Just like my kids have my DNA, I have God's DNA. And that's how
Mhm.
I was able to fight through all of this and just get through, like, and still have these light bulbs. This needs to be done. This needs shake the room versus being the pleasant person in the room. I had this guy say, "Oh, like you have the gift of prophecy. Like you're here to do this and do that." And it's like I just want people to know that whether you want to believe in God or you don't believe in God, like if you do or you don't, because I have so many people asking me like now, like, well, how do you believe after everything you've been through? And it's like, well, how do you not believe that's
Come
something
on. Because
after
it
everything you've been
clearly was
through?
him that got
Because
you
it's
out.
kind of like he shows you in every little thing that you do. You don't have to subject it to what everybody wants you to believe, you how to believe in God.
Yeah.
It's about how you resonate with God. Because if you can resonate that, wow, I just opened my eyes, that was God.
Come
Wow, I
on.
just paid that bill and I don't know how I paid it. That was God. If you could just recognize those little things, imagine the big things.
The
So
big thing.
it's not about, oh, I'm a Christian and I need to do this and I need to do that, because I don't resonate. I'm a sinner. I sin.
Mhm.
You know, like I'm not a perfect person. God knew who He made when He made me. He knew that I was going to sin. He knew that I probably was going to be trafficked. He probably put me through all of that for a reason, because I feel like I continuously get put in testimonial situations, like my
Yeah.
body being messed up. You know, that's really being trauma, not really knowing that like every time you heal something, you're going to feel pain somewhere, and then after you heal it, you're going to heal your body and your mind, because God is going to keep. And then for me, it's like, I rather show you what God is doing for me. So I'm going to post the
Mhm.
pictures. I'm going to show you. I'm going to talk about it, because that's what God created me for. I feel like He created me to go through it, but then also share it. Don't gatekeep. I always say, don't gatekeep. If you learn how
That's
to,
funny. Yup.
if you
That's
learn
funny
how to
you're
level
saying
up,
that.
and
Mm-hmm.
I tell the young people now, if you want to look at it like a video game, life is like a video game. So it's kind of like, you know, you're always going to be in the game. It's just what level you're going to be at. And you might hit level 12 and feel like you're on top, but it's just like you're on level 12, you might get bumped down to level 5. And that's
Mm-hmm.
okay to be on level 5, because maybe you didn't learn something on level 10. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
but in
And
that
building back
process,
up.
building it back up, I've
Mhm.
reached rock bottom so many times. And I had my oldest son and he was with me when I was still working in that
Mhm.
lifestyle. And like, it was so many times God would be like, no, like, don't do that, don't do that, and I would listen. So it's like, I believe that God knew what I was doing. He accepted it because He made me safe through it, and
Mhm.
I was still faithful through whatever I was doing. So I don't believe it's the act. I believe He knows your heart. He knows your soul. He knows what I feel like you as a person know what your intuition once you tap into God more. I think I've reached a different level right now, this going into this new phase of my life where um it's just like a selflessness, like a humbleness, like a I feel God in between my toes, all the way to my scalp.
Come
I feel
on.
him when I walk. I feel him doing all these things for me, and I just want other people to know about him and about the things and the people that get I'm more interested in the people that are bothered about me talking about it than the people that are praising me for saying it. Because the people
Right.
that are bothered about it are the people that are the ones that God wants me to talk to or God
Come
wants me to
on.
pray for, because
Mhm.
that's where it's a foundation. Like, we're a foundation. So Sweetie started my foundation of prayer and having this. So no matter what anyone did, I was still raised right. I still respected my elders. I still had those good morals that were instilled in me throughout life. But how can you expect a child to know anything if they're not being taught it? So, and
Mhm.
how can a mother teach it if her mom didn't teach it? But then how can her mother teach it? So, but how can we teach people to break generational curses if we're not even equipping ourselves to break them? So I feel like we need more generational cursed people, but we also need to teach it with less judgment and less
Yeah.
opinion, because
Mhm.
we get in this, oh well, everybody's about to get this and this person isn't working and this person, but why though? Like, all the beginning of the year, my son was in a mental hospital. I was trying to
Mhm.
get him admitted. I thought that he was going to, like, kill his bullies and things like that. Like, and I didn't know what was happening. Like, what is going on? Like, he was experiencing a psychosis, and I'm looking at my son and I'm like, that's not my son. That's a demon. Like, what is happening? I play gospel music and he's irritated. And I'm like, for me,
Mhm.
I'm one of them people that, like, I raise my kids. You got to think about what somebody else is going through. So if he's bullying you, imagine what's happening in his house. What is he projecting? But I feel like parents project that evilness too into, like, I think it jumps around, and it's jumping around in our schools to where it's like, I'm so unhappy because I have to go to work and now I have to feed you, and by the end of the day the parents are overstimulated, and they're
It's the
not happy
pressure.
with their lives. It's like the pressure's so much. So I just, I don't know, I feel like I just went into a whole ramble.
No,
But
No, this was good. Like, so for me going into this, I said, girl, I've been over here trying to hold tears back this whole time. But for me going into this, I'm hearing this in depth for the first time, just like whoever's watching, right? I remember when I seen you on Facebook a long time ago, and I was like, oh my God, it's Ashley. And then I started seeing you post, like, you were like in Trenton at one point, right?
yeah, we went to the state house
we
and
went
we
to
were
the
on the
state house,
news.
and I remember
Yeah.
that, and I was like,
What's going on? So I go in and I'm looking at what you posted, and I'm looking at this video, and I was like, what? What happened to her? Like, I didn't know. And so, we became Facebook friends. Then I'm following Instagram, and I'm seeing these different engagements that you're going to, and I'm seeing you having, do a public speeches, and I'm like, oh my God. And so when you were posting like old pictures of yourself, and you were posting about your experiences, again, I didn't know it in depth like I do now. And that's why I feel like the Lord placed you on my heart and say, yep, she needs to come and share it so I can hear it. And I'm over here like, you see me keep moving and adjusting because I just want to cry, right? But I'm just like, wow, the testimony of how God rescued you.
Yeah.
And it makes me think, like, when you were talking about being, like your escape, but it almost made me think, and I just had this vision, like how God stretched his hand out to Peter when he was on the water, and how Peter was drowning because he didn't believe that it was him. And I'm just sitting here like, he did that for you in that moment in Hawaii, he stretched his hand out to you.
Yeah.
And like, this is it. This is the moment. This is
I
the
feel like he
moment.
devised the whole plan,
Yes.
honestly. Like, I
Yeah.
feel like
Like,
he devised the whole plan. Because
hmm,
it's been so many times where, like, I would just be, like, praying, walking. I just, like, because sometimes, like, I suffer from severe PTSD. So there's a lot
yeah.
of things that I see, like, wintertime snow, like, everything signals to something that I've been through. So I'm always just like, oh, I remember it was cold and I used to walk down the street like, God, if you could just cover me up and warm me up out here, like, and I would
Hmm.
just feel okay. Like, and it was just that little. And I used to just tell people, like, if you just have those little conversations, like those little
Hmm.
conversations, it doesn't have to be like, God, like, we overthink our relationship. If he's my father, then I'm gonna talk to him like he's my father. If he's a part
That's
of me,
correct.
he has my DNA. He knows how I talk. He knows
Hmm.
how we have to communicate with each other.
So Miss Jacinta said that you are so valuable to the kingdom of God. I stand in agreement with
Oh,
that.
thank you so
Because
much.
do you know how many people would have tapped out?
Yeah, yeah.
They
And
would have tapped out.
it's but it never ends. So the smiling and the everyone looks at me and it's like, wow, she's so strong. It sometimes you wake up and you're like, I don't want to be strong anymore.
Oh,
I
I'm
don't
sorry. Miss Violet said that first. I was just scrolling and I seen yours, Miss Jacinta, but Miss Violet, she's watching as well. She's the one that said you're so valuable to him first. And then Miss Jacinta said it as well. And I'm saying it as the third person because you are.
thank
And
you.
it's amazing because a lot of people don't even want to relive it. So for you to be able to have the strength to still talk about it tells me that, like you said, the testimony inside of you has to share it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and
That's
I was talking to one of my accountability partners last week, and I said, I remember when I started this platform, and I said, Lord, I just knew in my mind the floodgates were going to open with people wanting to come and give their testimony, and it didn't happen that way. It started out a little bit, but then it kind of slowed down. And I said, Lord, why are people afraid? And he gave me so much insight, and he said, some people are still in a place of being shamed. Some people
yes.
are just fearful. Some people, but they're going to come. And I believe that. Like, I believe that. And so I appreciate you,
Yes.
even
I call
on this
it, I
platform.
tell people because there's not a lot of survivors that come out
Hmm.
and talk.
Right,
And there's also not a lot of survivors, and people don't
right,
understand that either. And a lot of the times it could have happened to you at 10, and then you don't feel comfortable talking about it till you're like 40. Um,
right,
and it's the process of finding a safe space. I feel like I got shamed so much because it's like
right.
she's a hoe, she's a prostitute, she's this, she's that. But in the day and age that we live in, it's kind of like you see these music videos, I laugh and I'm like, all right, I'm 39 now. You see all this stuff. I was wearing that stuff that y'all are wearing then, but I
Then,
was actually
right.
making money and doing things. So it's like, it's a different concept of like finding the self love, like, and knowing what love is. It's like everything is objective and what you can
Hmm.
do for me type, so it's like finding the balance of it's okay if people are going to say whatever they're going to say about you. I stand so firm on projection reflection. Whatever you're projecting on me is just a reflection of yourself because who are you to judge me?
Hmm.
I'm no better than anyone else. There's probably anything that anyone tells me, I've probably been through it or seen it or
Right.
been around it
Right.
because I've had this hard, I feel like I've lived a million lives in one. So
Right.
I'm just
But
like,
I thank you.
no,
I
thank you for
really,
having
really do.
me.
This was so amazing. And I'm going if you would after we go off, if you would send me like information that you would want me to share on this page so that, like I said, it could be for someone else, I
Yeah.
would love for you to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I usually have my stuff private as long as everyone's like keeps it like respectful,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
things like that. I don't mind sharing my information. I'm actually going towards a different way of life where I'm being called to kind of not preach, but put it together in that form of speaking. Like God is
Hmm.
working on me. I keep praying and I keep dreaming of seeing me preach, but I'm like, I'm not a preacher, God. What are you doing? But I feel like
Right.
the transition in my life right now is about to make a big change. So
Yes.
I don't mind welcoming people and being more social.
All
So
right.
thank you, and
Well,
I
thank
love
you.
you. It's
I
good
love you
seeing
too. When
you.
I come back home, I
Promise I'll let you know so I can see you,
And
so I can hug you.
I wanted to tell you, give the big baby, even though
I
she's,
will.
please give her a hug for me. She probably won't
I
even remember
will.
me.
Yep,
All
I
right.
surely will. But thank
Thank
you
you.
all for joining us tonight.
I'm going to go ahead and post the video on my page, and we will see you next Thursday. Y'all have a good night.
Bye. God bless.
Bye.